I think it's important that every journalist knows the basics of business journalism, or at least the basics of business, because the world revolves around, money, revolves around needs, and that have to be met in one way or the other. So even if you are covering court, you're going to end up having to deal with numbers at some point. There's an increase in crimes that involve fraud, for example. So unless you actually start to understand the basics of how businesses work, what makes them tick, what is profit, what is loss, then you're not going to do any story justice. If you are dealing with a shack fire, for example, you need to understand things like how budget allocations for housing are put together, for example, and what that means for social development. So government expenditure becomes very, very important. So it permeates everything that we do. I always say that everything that we do as a society has an economic component. If you haven't studied economics, it's not a train smash. A lot of financial journalists that I work with in print and in broadcasting have never studied accounting. I never studied accounting. But you firstly partner with somebody who's done it before. So find yourself a mentor, someone who, and they don't have to be a journalist, it can be your friend who's doing accounting and working for an accounting firm. Just ask them to explain what an income statement is, what a balance sheet is, and what a cash flow statement is, and spend the time just reading the financial pages. Fall in love with the numbers, because they are an essential part, but they're not the only thing. Increasingly, the world is moving towards focusing on the political economy. So even if you're somebody who's largely more interested in politics, you will have to understand a bit of economics in order to do justice to any story. So I think, we need to get over this mentality of, oh, I hate the numbers. I hated maths. I did terribly at maths at school. But I decided that this was a subject that was interesting, and economics isn't just about numbers. It's actually about behavior. It's almost like psychology. So it is boring at times, I have to say myself. I was looking at a story I have to do today, for example, and I thought, goodness, how do I make this sound interesting and exciting? But you always have to just remember, it is about how it affects people. If you can tell your audience or your readers why it's important to them, it's the so what factor. So no matter what the story is, at the end of the day, if you cannot give me a comprehensive answer to the so what, why should I care question, then you've lost me already. I think for the African continent, it's very important that we have more and more financial journalists. We are called a frontier market at the moment. We have a lot of people coming in wanting to invest. We need to be able to differentiate between true investment in our continent and those people who are here merely to exploit us. Now, for all our populations, we as financial journalists need to be able to make that distinction for them and understand it, but it starts with us understanding it first. My main tips for young journalists just getting into financial journalism is ask a lot of questions. When I started, I made friends with a lot of economists who were quite prominent and popular, a lot of stockbrokers, and when I didn't understand something, I would just phone them and say, listen, I'm trying to put the story together. I don't understand what this is. What is fair value on a stock? There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. I do that now, and I've been in the industry for more than a decade. I don't think I'll ever stop asking for help.